Welcome to Healing Starts with the Heart, the podcast where grief meets resilience. Join your host, grief specialist, Sharon Brubaker, as she guides you through this transformative journey using her own personal struggles through grief.
Hey, welcome to the show. Today I want to be talking about your grief. I want to talk about your grief and how this pain changes you. For me, I've had my own experience with change through grief, and I know what it's been like. I know what it's like to not have them anymore, to want them to be in my life, and this feeling of reaching out for someone who's always been there, only to discover when I need her one more time, my best friend Sharon, she was no longer there. That changed me profoundly. And I don't know about you, and I don't want to blow smoke and make it seem like, well, Sharon, yes, that's obvious. I think that as grievers, we weren't expecting that to be the response. I mean, I think that I knew it was going to be hard. I just didn't know it was going to be this hard. I didn't know that day in and day out, I was going to be longing for her as long as I was. Grief it's personal and it's emotional. That's the thing I think we all need to really understand, is that it's emotional. It takes place in our heart, right? It's an experience that will touch every single one of us. None of us are going to get away from this experience. None of us are going to get a chance to walk away from this experience. It will touch every single one of us. We will have multiple grieving experiences throughout our lives. And if that's the case, if that's true, if we're all going to have multiple experiences of grief throughout our life, why are we not taught how to do this? Why do they not sit us down and show us how to do this? Why do they not tell us that our lives will be forever different? Losing a loved one and experiencing significant loss can be so overwhelming, and it can invoke intense emotions. Sometimes the emotions are too strong to allow in. Sometimes they're so strong, you can't even let them in. In this podcast, I want to explore how grief pain has the potential to change you and change your perspectives on things, change your emotions, and change your personal growth. So let's just start with the fact that change is going to happen. Sharon was my best friend. She was not my only loss. She was one of the multiple losses that I tell you you're going to have throughout your lifetime. You're going to have multiple losses. She was just one of them. It profoundly changed me because she and I were connected. We would talk every single day on the phone. We talked every morning because she had an hour and a half commute, and we talked every night because she had an hour and a half commute back. And we talked intimately and personally about things. We both had children we were raising. We both had love interests. I had my husband, Sharon was dating. We both had love interests that we would talk about. We would talk about spiritual, definitely our relationship with God, our relationship with life, what it meant to be alive today. I can't even tell you the depths of how deep we could go. The trust that the two of us had for each other was unmatched. Now, I am in going on a 38-year marriage. I love my husband to death. I love Tony. He is an amazing man. He provides for me like none other. He is my best friend. He is one of my best friends. Sharon just happened to be another best friend of mine that I truly, truly love and trusted. When Sharon was diagnosed, she knew that I would be there for her. She knew that I would be there for her no matter what. And I leaned into that. I tried as hard as I could while I was going through the experience. I tried to imagine what it was going to be like without her. And I don't know where you guys are in your grieving experience. And if you're at the beginning or have just lost someone, trying to imagine what your life is going to feel like, I couldn't get there. The grief pain was not a simple emotion, what came on me. It embraced the complexities of grief embraced when Sharon was gone, so many different emotions. So many different emotions. Not only sadness, not only bitterness, not only loneliness, but sometimes there was anger. Sometimes there was guilt. Sometimes there was even relief. Relief that she was no longer in pain. Relief that they weren't sticking and prodding her. Relief that she got to pass on. I really experienced that relief with my dad. I don't think that you experience the relief with grief with a tragic death. Like with the boys, there was no relief there. But I definitely experienced it with Sharon, and I definitely experienced it with my dad. Sometimes that relief can shock us, right? It can really shock us. But let's talk about how it changed me. I no longer had the best friend to pick up the phone and call. And so, because I got so much advice from her and I was comfortable getting advice from her, there was this longing to get advice. And I tell this story often, and I'm going to repeat it again. And I'm not sure you heard it, but I'm going to tell it often. Sharon and I could talk for 2 hours about what color drapes I should get to hang in my living room. We could talk about her drapes just as long. We could go to the stores and look at the drapes and measure the drapes and come back and get samples and hang those samples up. I mean, the amount that we would go to on just one project was just immense. She would call me when she found things. I would call her when I found things. Friends, I want to tell you something. When my oldest daughter, Lauren, got married, Sharon was as involved in this planning of the wedding as I was when her daughter, Erin, got married. The two of us, it was like a project. We just knew that the other person was going to be there and that they were going to be there and help us with the drapes and the design. And we were both the mothers of the bride, both of us, both times. My daughter, Lauren, got married when they were doing the toast. They were cutting the cake. And Sharon all of a sudden noticed that Dan's mother was not present for the cake cutting. And she stopped the whole thing right in the middle. Wait. The mother of the groom is not here. And she ran across the dance floor, got the mother of the groom and brought him over. Like we were intimately involved in the planning. Her leaving me, even though she left her 3 beautiful children as well, and she left all of us, but her leaving me was like having my right arm cut off. Having that person gone, just all of a sudden, one day, gone. To find your bearings again after that is so difficult. It's so totally difficult. To say that the emotions were intense sometimes. In the beginning, I did this thing where I because I was a grief specialist, I decided to do this experiment where I wanted to see how long I could go without absolutely doing the grief work. And so I was in a fog. Her children decided that right away afterwards, that that they wouldn't do her celebration of life for 1 month until after she passed away, and they would do that on her birthday. They would do the celebration of life on her birthday, which I thought was beautiful. So that meant we had 1 month to plan it. And we put together an amazing event for her. And so for that 1 month, I just tried to see what it would be like. I tried to lean into the grief. I wanted to feel the pain. I wanted to feel the loss of her. I wanted to observe it, almost to be the observer of myself going through it. It was like an out-of-body experience. It was like I stepped outside of myself and I was watching myself go through this experience. And I was numb. There was no thinking there. That is not when the change happened. There was too much going on at first. We were trying to plan the ceremony. I was taking care of her, checking in on her children, her adult children, making sure that they were okay, checking in to see what they were doing. People were calling me. Sharon had a huge friend list. She had friends for days. She had colleagues, work colleagues, people that trusted her and leaned on her. At about the 3-month mark, her youngest daughter said to me, one day when we were having lunch and I was just doing a check-in, she said, I don't feel comfortable sharing my grief with you because I can see on your face how much it's hurting you. And I don't feel like you're a safe space for me. Ouch. But it was my wake-up call that my experiment to see how long I could go without my grief work was over. And then I did my much needed grief work at about the 3-month mark. That's not when the change happened either. That was the grief work. The change happened over time when I started to realize that I didn't have that right arm anymore. I didn't have that person. I didn't have that person to call. I didn't have that person when I picked up my phone that would answer that call. I had this longing. It was this constant longing. It was like this ringing in my ear of this constant longing for someone that was no longer there. There were times where I would have a difficult situation and this urge to call her would just be there. I needed her to answer questions for me. I needed her to help me figure this thing out. About the 8-month mark of Sharon being gone, my daughter was applying for a new job. My youngest daughter was applying for a new job. And she called me in tears. I mean, absolutely broken down in tears. And she said, Mom, I'm trying to update my resume. And I just realized that Sharon was always the person that helped me with that. And she was just broken apart. And it took my breath away. Sharon was the choir leader at our church. And so she led the choir, the children's choir. And at the 1-year anniversary, the holiday, Sharon died in June. And at the 6 months later in December, they asked me to come and help out with the program because I always helped her because she was my right arm. I can't sing a lick, but I was there for her every time she was doing that. And the songs were being sung, these familiar songs. And every time I was hearing them, they were just breaking me. And that was a big breaking point for me. December was the big breaking point for me. As a matter of fact, once the choir had finished singing, I walked off the stage. I walked right over to my husband and I said, I have to get out of here. I can't breathe. The missing her was so overwhelming and intense. It was really the part where I think I got the bulk of the grief out. I Ubered home and I got in my bed. It was 1:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday and I cried the rest of the day. And that crying and that release is where I got the bulk of the grief and the brokenness out. That grief and brokenness that you just carry around every day. Because believe it or not, friends, there comes a point where that part has to have an end date on it. That part where you're just allowing the grief to be there has to have an end date. Does that mean you stop grieving? No, it just has this big burst of release and then you're done with that. But here's what happened after that. I got this burst of release from that grief. But what happened after that is that I just continued to look for somebody to replace her. And it was almost like this. The thoughts were like this. Who's going to be my friend now? Who's going to help me and guide me? Who's going to be my resource? Are you? Are you going to be my resource? So I would call girlfriends, other girlfriends that I had, and I would run scenarios by them. What color drapes should I get to hang in the living room? And the way they responded was so different. It literally pushed me back. It made me take a step back. Wow, that didn't feel right. I don't want advice from you. Let me go to my next friend. So I go to my next friend, and this is no knock on them. This is no knock on them because bless their hearts, my girlfriends showed up for me. They showed up in droves. And I would go to the next friend and I would say, hey, what about this? What about these drapes? And I would ask the same question. And it wasn't long before I noticed that there was nobody there like her. There was nobody there like her for me. And then I was going to have to make this path. Let me tell you something. I even tried getting my husband to help me design the drapes. And he was like, what? What are you asking me? Just go buy the drapes. I don't care. What do you need to know? Like, He didn't want to be any part of it. I tried pulling my children in. There was no replacement for that. There was no replacement for who she was. My life was forever changed. It was forever changed. And I had to figure out what the rest of my journey was going to be like without Sharon in it. Honestly, friends, I don't know. I don't know what it's like for you. I don't know what it's like having your best friend being gone, your husband, your spouse, your best friend, your mother who's your best friend, your father who's your best friend. I don't know what it's like when you lose them. I don't know what it's like for you because your relationship with them is your relationship with them. What I do know is what it's like to not have that resource, not have that person there for you. So shortly after realizing that, okay, I can't replace the loss. Now, that was something that I taught. I teach that often in my class. You cannot replace the loss. I teach it all the time. I know better. But yet, innately, my body went to try and replace the loss. Shortly after that, my husband and I made a decision that we were moving to Texas. Our youngest daughter was expecting twins and she needed our help, and he was retiring, and my job is mobile. And so it was perfect. So we moved to Texas. And yet it is a beautiful place, and I have family and friends here. It is still this longing for her. There is still a longing for that space for me. And here's what I've come to the conclusion is that that space will never be filled, and it will be okay. But I am aware of it. I'm aware that my life is forever different. I'm aware that my life is forever changed. Your grief will change you 100%. You never go back to being the person that you were before. I will never be that friend again, not like I was with her. I will have other friendships, and they will be beautiful and they will be amazing. But I never will go back to being the friend that I was when I was with Sharon. I never go back to being who I needed her to be for me, who I needed that person to be. It will be different. And I'm at a spot where that's okay. I'm aware of it. I have come far enough along that I'm aware of it. On Sunday, 3 or 4 Sundays ago, our daughters had a very tough discussion between the two of them. And we sat down at the table and we had a talk. And when that discussion was over, I walked away from the table, and the first person that I wanted to call was her. The longing is still there. It is still there. Which lets me know this. You can work on the pain for your grief, but the part where you're different, that part, it hangs on. That part where you're missing them, that hangs on. The intensity of that drops for sure, 100%. I don't dream about her, long about her all day long, but there's profound moments in my life where she comes up, where I think about her. Grief is for everybody. It is not a straight line. We don't go from this point to the next point and it's just over. And I don't know how long grief is going to take for you. It is a journey of ups and downs, of changes, of ebbs and flows. There's moments where you are really strong in your grief. And there's moments where you'll be extremely vulnerable in your grief. Your grief pain will come in waves, and that I can guarantee you. And some days, like me 3 weeks ago, it will be more challenging than others. It is so essential for you to be patient with yourself and to be patient with others that are grieving. Allow yourself the time to grieve in your own space. Allow yourself to find your own peace. I am at peace. I am at peace with Sharon. And I never, ever would have wanted to do this journey 1 minute without her. And I'm truly sorry that I only got to do it for 15 years. Remember that your healing is going to take the time that it takes for you. And it is so important for you to seek support, knowledge, and understanding. It's important for you to understand what's going on in your life, in your heart, the changes that are happening within you. More important than seeking the support is as important for you to seek the education that you need to get beyond this pain. I've had to do much needed work to work on my brokenness and my broken heart around my grief with sharing. You're going to have to do the same thing. You will find moments of resilience and you will find meaning again. I promise you, you will find that. And you will have amazing experiences, but it will take the time that it takes. Some individuals will find that their grief, they can turn it into a positive experience, such as supporting others. This is what happened to me in my grieving experience. I started to support others. Or you'll find that you can use the energy that you have of the pain to propel you in other areas of your life. You'll have these amazing memories of your loved ones and you'll be able to share them. You won't always be broken, but you will be forever changed and forever different. My friends, my name is Sharon Brubaker, and I am your grief specialist. I am here doing this podcast to help you on your journey to grief. But more importantly than that, I am an educator, and I teach an educational program on grief and loss. And I have named that educational program Forever Changed. And I'd be honored to have you take a part of my program. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm going to put the links in the show notes below where you can find me. In that link, you can also find my ebook called The Griever's Guide. Along with that ebook, you'll also find the ebook titled Surviving the Holidays. There you will also find the link for my website, SharonBrubaker.com, where you can find my amazing program, Forever Change. If you are tired of grieving, if you don't understand some of the changes that are going on in your own personal grieving experience, if you need help, please use the link and reach out to me. I am here for you. More importantly, I have traveled this journey before you. I am a grief traveler and I've been on this journey for a while, and I can help you through the pitfalls that you're about to go through. Thank you for allowing me in, my friends. Bye.